Hi, I'm Mason, coming to you from one of the VIP ranges here at the gun store in Las Vegas. And you're watching Fired Up with Bob Irwin.
Thanks for tuning in to Fired Up. I'm your host of the show, Bob Irwin. We are coming to you from the gun store in Las Vegas, Nevada. This program is all about guns, related politics, and issues to do with self-defense. I want to let regular viewers know, just as a little side here, that all of our shows now are available on YouTube. If you'd like to see some of our back shows, you can look on YouTube at Fired Up with Bob Irwin, and you will find all those tapes. This edition, we're going to discuss two cases. One is a 2012 shooting case that just went through the system where the jury found an interesting result. We'll get into that with the panel. And from my file I seem to open every week, the I can't possibly make this up file, we have a radio talk show host in Atlanta who has apparently decided he has a plan which will kill people who carry guns and cops and get them to shoot each other. First off, however, we're going to talk about this case in California. We have a middle-aged man who's been the victim of several vandalism incidents in his neighborhood, damage to his home and property. So he began carrying a handgun when he was out in his yard late in the evening to watch the sunsets or whatever. He's now carrying a gun.
I guess there had been some issues previously. 3 days earlier, his car rear view window had been smashed in, and with a trash toting device that I had to look up. And that evening, he's approached by a 15-year-old kid who had a garbage tote above his head, which is like a metal, like a hefty metal thing. It's dangerous. It's not just a trash can, like I thought it was.
So here's this guy, he's being approached by a teenager with a garbage tote. He pulls his gun and he shoots, and he grazes the teenager, who then runs off with his compatriots who are also in the yard.
And so after the cops do their investigation, this man is charged. The homeowner is charged with discharge of a firearm in a gross and negligent manner. The prosecutors decided that, well, the firearm shooting this kid in the direction was just too much. It wasn't defensible, and he shouldn't have done it.
Okay, so the defense that was put forward was based on California's stand your ground law, which is more no duty to retreat law, which is similar to the one they have in Nevada, that when you're in your home and somebody's attacking you, you don't have to retreat before using deadly force.
The question was the 57-year-old homeowner, was he entitled to use deadly force against three 15-year-olds who are armed only with basically a metal frame that you use to carry trash cans with, when they come on his property and one of them move toward him holding this thing, and it's 11 o'clock at night?
Well, and let me say this. People say 15. It's easy to say, oh, 15, legally he's a child. Who knows how big these kids are? The 15-year-olds can be 6 foot tall. So when we minimize it and they say, oh, it's a child, it doesn't always look like a child, especially when they're going to heave a chunk of metal at your head.
Go
ahead.
And the other thing is there were 3 of them, and they could have all been large for teenagers, and they had what is arguably, in Nevada, a deadly weapon in their hand.
And you know, that one of the critical things is, what is a deadly weapon? A deadly weapon can be almost anything. It doesn't have to be a gun. It doesn't have to be a knife. It doesn't have to be a baseball bat. Anything that can inflict substantial bodily harm can be considered a deadly weapon.
Sure, anything that you use to kill somebody, no matter how innocuous it is, once it's used to kill them, it's a deadly weapon.
I hate to be the weak-kneed guy at the table, but it's in my opinion, based on the facts, it's ridiculous to shoot the kid or shoot at the kid. Either way, I mean.
Well, the jury, a jury of 8 women and 4 men, after deliberating for the better part of 2 days, returned the verdict of not guilty. So they disagreed with you.
And you know, we run into this a lot. the individual who fired the weapon had to articulate to the investigators and ultimately to the judge or the jury that he was in fear, in immediate fear of danger to himself or his property or someone in the immediate area. You have to be able to articulate that. You can't just say, oh yeah, I really wasn't afraid, but I shot at him anyway. You have to be able to tell the jury, I was in fear of my life.
I think he was. I mean, his 3 days before, we skipped that little part, but 3 days before this happened, this same garbage tote was used to smash in the rear window of the guy's car. This has been going on for a while with graffiti and whatnot in his house. And this thing is capable of bashing in a rear window of a car, and this guy is 57 years old. He's not going to fight with a 15-year-old kid. What went wrong here, when we read all the details, was what appears to me, at least, to be a valid shooting. He hid the gun in a water pipe at his house and told the police nothing happened.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't know, and the kids ran off, and they were in his yard, and he scared them off, and that was it. He left out the shot part and the gun, and all of that, of course, came out. So now the prosecutor's looking at a guy who's lying about what happened at the scene.
Yeah, and I think what that is referred to as a consciousness of guilt. You know, you're trying to cover up something that you did because after you've done it, you're thinking, oh man, I might have messed up on this one.
And a lot of times it's what you do after a shooting like this that gets you in more trouble than the actual shooting.
Yeah, he basically falsified the evidence. So when the investigators get there and discover this, that he's lying about part of it, you know what happens when you lie about part of it? They assume you lied about everything. Right. Fortunately for him, when he ended up in court over this with an attempted murder charge, eventually, the jury, he explained that to him and how nervous he was and he hid the gun and he didn't mean to and so forth and so on. Don't change the evidence at the scene of your shooting. Leave it as it is. You'll be fine. Don't make a liar out of yourself. We're going to be back after just a few messages. Don't go away.
Our panel discussion will continue right after this.
Hi, I'm Gwen coming to you from the gun store in Las Vegas, where we are teaching a CCW class. You're watching Fired Up with Bob Irwin.
And we are back here on Fired Up. This is a story out of Atlanta, Georgia. There is a protest going on there against a gun law that has caused some individuals that are pro-gun to carry unloaded rifles slung over their shoulder to get public awareness going of this particular law they're trying to defeat. That's not really the subject of this panel. We have there a local left-wing radio show host who has taken on this group and decided he has a plan, which he is open about, to cause these protests to be fouled up, to say the least.
Well, yeah, like you said, Atlanta talk show host Mike Malloy says that he has a plan to ensnare cops and open carriers of firearms into shootouts, which is just disgusting. It's crazy that he could advocate something that is so dangerous for not only for law enforcement, for legally, justified firearms carriers, but for innocent bystanders that could be surrounding situations like this. Like, this is just disgusting that he could even advocate something as reckless and crazy as open shootouts. This is nuts.
And this moron goes on the air, live on the radio, on his show, and he says he's going to wait until he finds somebody openly carrying a rifle, and then he's going to start yelling, guns, 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 everybody watch out, guns, hit the deck, the sky's falling and I'm an idiot. I mean, how could he do this on the air? I really have to question the sanity of that.
And then he says he's going to call 911 and say shots fired, which is going to bring every goddamn cop from 15 miles away running. And of course, he hopes it will set the rifle carriers, scurrying about and cause panic.
And his theory is that these well-trained police officers who come to the scene is going to see one of these open carry guys that doesn't have his rifle properly shouldered, maybe it's in his hands, and just on that alone is going to open fire on this citizen And as Mallory said, he hopes the cops shoot him right in the forehead.
This is basically went over the whole thing on the air, and it's a ruse to entice police officers and perhaps a nearby concealed weapon holder, or who knows. He's going to be yelling, you know, there's a guy shooting, and look out, duck and run, and the police come, and the guys come running out with their rifles. And the way he wants this to work out is the police and the gun advocates end up shooting at each other. Or at least the police end up shooting the guys with the unloaded rifles.
This goes beyond your political beliefs or where you stand on the Second Amendment. He is just straight up advocating for the murder of innocent people.
He's shouting fire in a crowded theater.
Exactly.
Exactly, and his point is he's trying to advocate against gun violence, and yet he's willing to start violence to prove his point and get people shot to prove his point that guns are bad. I mean, that's a classic example of liberal logic.
He's going to end gun violence with gun violence so long as he's not the one actually firing it to make him a hypocrite.
Or the one getting shot.
And you know, it really makes you wonder at what point will the station that this man works for take some kind of action against him to censor him, you know, First Amendment rights aside. You can't go on and say something like that, advocating some kind of fake violence. I mean, you wonder to what level does this buffoonery have to reach before it's stopped?
Well, that's exactly where the line is drawn with the First Amendment, is shouting fire in a crowded theater, which this is exactly tantamount to.
Yeah, and the reason I brought this up, and I got two lawyers on this panel, is this is not a crime in itself. What he's saying on his show is how this will work, apparently advocating that he's going to do it. He's not advocating others do it. But it's this whole plot and what he's going to say at which time to cause a gunfight between people who would not normally be gunfighting.
If I was a DA in that particular jurisdiction, I would think seriously about charging him with a conspiracy or solicitation for the purposes of committing disorderly conduct or a public riot.
At the very least.
I've heard inciting to riot.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
is that actually a crime somehow? That because he's inciting people to do a gunfight. I mean, he works for an extremely liberal station. I doubt very much they're going to tell him they're going to fire him. They may well tell him to calm it down, but I can't imagine some fool with a radio show doing something like this.
He doesn't even have to do it. If one of his listeners is crazy enough to go out and actually do this and somebody gets shot or, God forbid, dies, Mr. Mallory and his radio station are going to be facing some very serious civil lawsuits on wrongful death.
Yeah, and that's an excellent point. That's an excellent point, because the defense there would be, had it not been for this man planting the idea in this poor guy's head, you know, whoever reacts to that, it never would have happened. So this guy could say, hey, I was just going by what I heard on the radio, and I thought that to be real. You know, I mean, the liability is just incredible.
I mean, go back to remember the Orson Welles thing years ago, where he did War of the Worlds on his radio show, and nobody knew it was fake, and people are jumping out of windows and doing all, and several people died over that, over car wrecks and things. He didn't say on the front of this is a fantasy. It just is. He's really trying to get people to do this, from what it appears here. And he's hoping. He said in another broadcast that he is a version of swatting people like we have now, where you call a SWAT team to raid your friend's house, and the SWAT team don't know that they're not in on the joke. This is out in the middle of everywhere. Where, anyway. We're out of time for this panel right now. If you're ever in Atlanta, don't listen to Mallory's show, because it'll entice you to do something really stupid. A little more show coming. Other than that, we'll be back next week. Thanks for tuning in.
Hi, it's Emily, and I'm coming to you from the Shotgun Wedding Chapel here at the Gun Store in Las Vegas, where you can book your shotgun wedding ceremony, vow renewal, or commitment ceremony. You're watching Fired Up with Bob Irwin.
Hi, this is Tony. Thanks for watching Fired Up with Bob. We're here today at the Crossroads and West Gun Show here in Las Vegas, and we're here with Angela from STR components. And these are the people who make some of the 80% AR-15 receivers that have gotten so much of the notoriety in the news lately. And Angela, why don't we tell us a little bit about these guns?
Sure. Well, what we do are 80% finished lower receivers for both your AR-10 and your 15, and then the tools to finish them out. So we hold the patents on the jig and then the system to do that. And we haven't received any bad press or notoriety because we're very careful to stay very much in the black and white of the law. We don't go near the gray area, which is what you've probably been hearing about. So what this does is it allows you to finish your receiver yourself, and so long as you keep it for your own personal use, then you don't have to.
And that's a big
sure.
thing too. Now,
Yes.
what type of person do you get to buy these? Do you get the average guy, or the enthusiast, or the
Both.
machinist, or
Both, all of it. A lot of the same people that like to build hot rods like to do these,
I like to
because
do that.
this system allows you to completely customize your firearm to exactly what it is that you want. And then you also get just Joe America, who it's the first time he's ever built a gun for himself, and it's just in his garage, and he wants the pleasure of doing it for himself.
And they sell the jigs, you sell the components, you sell the drills to do it, everything, right?
Yes, yep.
And do you give any? Is there any instructions, or you?
Yes, yeah, we've got a full video on our website that holds your hand and walks you through the process.
Good.
Yep.
And I noticed they come in a variety of different colors and variations and everything, so you can customize it to more.
You can go with standard black or flat dark earth.
What do they call this particular pattern?
That's a tri-blend anodized camo.
Tri-blend anodine. Now, do you
Yes.
sell the uppers to go with this also?
Yes, we do. And if you want the upper to match it, since we do our own anodizing, we will actually put the upper and lower through the same process to make sure that your tri-blend matches exactly.
Okay. And here's the one that matches your
This
dress.
is my favorite.
Yeah, the pink, of
I have
course.
one of these at home.
I hear pink is the new black now.
Pink is the new black.
Pink
You know,
is the
believe it
new-
or not, this is our second most popular selling color.
Really?
Yes.
I remember I built one for my wife, a pink AR, and we were going to rent it at the store, and I finished it, I came out, and a couple of tourists, they said, oh, I got to have that. So we actually do build them now too, so it's fun. It's fun. Very nice color.
Yep, we do custom colors as well. We actually just finished a Captain America themed gun with the metallic blue upper and lower.
Really?
And then the magwell was wrapped in red and white. So we can do a little bit of everything.
The internal components also?
Yes.
When you finish it all up, you can put all the internal components, and then I
Yes,
guess
sir.
here is the...
That's all your drill bits and end mills that you need.
Right.
So-
Now, even if you don't have a mill, you can do it on a drill press or do it at home in front of the TV, or
Absolutely. You can use end mills in a regular drill press. So technically you're doing a milling motion because you're going back and forth, but you don't need a separate machine.
Okay.
Just the drill press will work.
and this is the jig to hold everything together.
Yes.
Holes in the side to drill for your safety and your hammer and trigger.
Yes.
This is the starter holes, I assume, in the
Yes.
front. And actually holds the buffer in too.
Yep,
huh?
the really unique feature is the alignment tool that you were pointing out. So with these, any DPMS format, AR-10 will work in here. Billet or forged, doesn't matter. So that will lock down your plates and make up for any width difference from brand to brand. And it does the same with the AR-15s for any mill spec. So locks it in and gives you perfect alignment every time.
Very good. Angela, thank you very much. You've been very informative.
Thank you so much, Tony.
Hi, I'm Greg, and welcome to the Gun Store in Las Vegas. Here at the Gun Store, we're here to help you, where we have a huge selection of firearms. When you're in Las Vegas, stop by and see us. Guns, politics, and self-defense. That's Fired Up with Bob Irwin.
Hi, this is Tony with the Gun Store in Las Vegas. We're at the Big Sandy machine gun shoot in Wickiup, Arizona. And we're going to be doing one of my all-time favorite machine guns. This is the German MG34. This one here, this gun made like a watch. Earlier in the war when they started building, they were blued, totally machined, 8mm. The bolt mechanism on this gun requires unbelievable amount of machining to make it work. It's a very, very fussy gun. The instruction manual for this gun was about this thick, and then when they went to the MG42, it was about this thick. Even the way you carried this gun had an effect on how it operated. It was very, very fussy, high quality, typical German engineering, beautifully made. Fires from an open bolt, We loaded it up. It's 8mm Mauser ammunition, the same ammunition that the Germans used in their rifles. It's all ready to go here. The trigger was kind of unique. When you pulled the top trigger, it fired one round. When you pulled the bottom trigger, it was on full auto. So you didn't have to screw around with any selector switches. It was strictly from the trigger. This is the MG34 tripod that it came on, and you can shoot aircraft with it. Over here, for a big spider sight for aircraft. You have your drum on the side, usually like a Bakelite rear stock. Some of them were Bakelite, some of them were wood. Very, very nice gun to shoot, and we're going to give that a little bit. As you can see, high rate of fire. We only fired a couple rounds. We still got some left. Let's go for more. Now we're done. High rate of fire. Not as high rate as the MG42. When they went to the 42, very fast. In fact, they used to call it Hitler's buzzsaw, Hitler's zipper. It was a very, very fast shooting gun. These are excellent guns, way over machined for what they do. And again, when they went to the 42, they simplified it a little bit better and made it more efficient and easy to manufacture. I want to show right down here, here's an MG42 on a mount that you can shoot with a scope, and this is the operating lever here that would fire it. Very, very stable, very, very good for a fixed machine gun position. Of course, the gun came off and you can carry it like a bipod, like the standard 34. Coming to you from Wickiup, Arizona, in the middle of the desert. Having a great time.
You're watching Fired Up with Bob Irwin, coming to you from the gun store in Las Vegas.